What's going on? Thanks for checking in. Today we're talking about weighted ball throwing programs for the kids, for the youth. This is one you're not going to want to miss. Make sure you stay tuned. Check this one out. Before we dive in, let me give you a quick backstory on my personal experience with plyo balls and with weighted ball programs. I was first introduced to them at a facility called Driveline Baseball. Y'all should know what that is by now. I went out there in 2015 before they were, mega famous like they are now. And let me tell you, in that group, we had Bauer, we had Eric Sim, we had Ben Brewster, founder of Tread Athletics. We had an absolute crew out there in 2015, and basically we were just trying to figure out these weighted balls as we go. We were just throwing them as hard as we can at these super high intensities, seeing if it worked. And guess what? It did work. At the beginning of summer, I went out there, I was right around 84 miles an hour. After doing their program, the plyo ball throwing program, the weighted ball pull down program, I left that 3-month summer, pulling down 92. So it definitely worked for me. So then in 2018, I decided to fly back out there, spend another summer, and guess what? It worked again. And that's as their methods were advancing. So they had a better system, better protocol in place. It was adapting over time, a much better program. And like I said again, my velocity went up. So I'm a big believer in weighted balls, in the plyo ball velocity throwing programs. I would even go as far to say is that it changed my career and may have got me a Division I scholarship. However, I do believe they are not for everyone, and by everyone, I mean little kids. I'll be honest with you, what sparked this conversation, what sparked this video is I had a dad come into the facility, and here at the facility, I offer a throwing protocol, a weighted ball throwing protocol on top of, our pre-existing strength and conditioning program. However, I don't just let them come in and do the velocity program without the strength and conditioning program. And I told the dad this and he got all pissed off and he was like, hey, my son's too young to start the strength and conditioning program. All he needs is the weighted ball velocity program. So I'm sitting there thinking, if you think that your son is too young to do the strength and conditioning program, but at a good age to start this high intensity weighted ball throwing program, you're missing the whole entire point and you're on the complete wrong track. And here lies the biggest problem with the youth, with little kids throwing these weighted balls. And that's instant gratification. A good strength and conditioning program should be a prerequisite to these weighted ball throwing programs. There's facilities around that feed off the idea of getting these young kids in here, boosting up their throwing velo a little bit, through a weighted ball, plyo velocity throwing program. But is it the safest way? There's a facility very close to us that has these 12, 13-year-old kids doing max effort pull downs, throwing off a Rapsodo, got these heavy ball plyo velocity throwing programs before they even know how to do a proper bodyweight squat, a proper hinge, before they know how to do a single push-up, even hang off a pull-up bar, before they know how to do any basic human foundational movements. And I'll tell you exactly what's gonna happen to that kid, or those kids that are following along that trail. They're gonna get an initial spike in velo, just because they haven't done stuff like that before. The kid may go from throwing 35 to 45 miles an hour, right? However, one of two things are gonna happen. They're gonna hit a plateau because their ceiling's not high enough, their physiology isn't high enough to withstand the demands of that throwing protocol, so they'll hit a plateau, not get any better, or unfortunately, they're gonna get injured. You have to build a foundation before you add that cherry on top. I use the analogy, it's like putting nice wheels and tires on a shitty car. So a way to do that, a way to build that foundation is through a proper strength and conditioning program. And what that's gonna do is simply raise your ceiling, raise your potential. All right, hey, let's give you a little visual here. Say we have two twin brothers, same exact genetics, right? They're both 13 years old. However, one of these guys is on a good physiological strength and conditioning program, plus a weighted ball plyo velocity throwing program. And then the other brother just doesn't want to grind, doesn't want to get in the gym. He wants that instant gratification. He wants to sign up somewhere where, you know, they're throwing these weighted balls, max effort, doing nothing else, right? If you've been following me for a while now, you know I go off this pyramid when I'm building and designing a strength and conditioning program. So as you know, the base is your relative strength. Then you got to build force. Then you have to bridge that to sport through sport-specific exercises. Then on top is the skill. This would be your weighted ball. So little Johnny 1 right here has been building his pyramid, and then on top, he's been doing his weighted ball throwing programs. But we'll call him little Johnny 2, right? His twin brother. He just does the weighted ball throwing programs, and if you look at this wonderful illustration by my athletes in here, the pyramid is crumbling, it can't withstand. So what comes with this? If you're not building the body, building physiology, your ceiling is only going to be so high. So you may see initial improvements in velocity, right? If little Johnny, he may go from, 55 to, 60 miles an hour, very fast, doing this throwing program. However, he may be capped at 60 mile an hour at his physiology. Okay, but now we got little Johnny that's been busting his butt in the weight room, building his relative strength, force, bridge to sport, getting the skill with the weighted balls. His ceiling may be up here. He may not have the initial velocity gains as his brother. He may be at, 55 to, 57. But now that 57 to 60. Now he may go up 60, 65, and his cap can eventually be, we'll call it 100 if he keeps building through puberty, right? So the idea is that the strength program, the strength and conditioning physiological program needs to be a prerequisite to your weighted ball throwing program so you can build your ceiling higher. Point is, gotta build that ceiling before you start chucking these weighted balls. However, I do believe they could be beneficial in a warm-up setting, super low intensity for these kids to, throw before a pitching outing, before a game, etc. But I don't think you should go chuck these things on a radar gun at max intensity. The entire point on what I'm trying to make is you can't be looking for that instant gratification on your development. How you do one thing is how you do everything. Go get yourself strong first, teach yourself basic human movements, learn how to be an athlete, then you can start implementing these weighted ball throwing programs. And in my professional opinion, I don't think there's any reason for these 12-year-old kids to be throwing these weighted balls at max intensity. Game rewards the grind. It knows how much you've invested.